Good evening and welcome to tonight's council meeting for October 9th, 2012. Clerk will call the roll.
Markham.
Here.
Sedlacek.
Present.
Jarvis. Hanson.
Here.
Anderson.
Present.
Fowler.
Here.
Riley. Williams.
Here.
Let the record show that we have a quorum for our common council meeting. Please rise for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the list of items for the consideration in item number 8, consent agenda. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Alder Anderson.
Second, Alder Jarvis.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Consent agenda approval. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried. Consent agenda is hereby approved. Item 4 is the audience portion where we ask citizens to sign in and be recognized by the chair. This is where you get to do the talking and we get to do the listening. Tonight, we have a Goldie Zarnath signed up. You can stand where you are or come up, it's up to you, and tell us what's on your mind. There's a microphone right to your right up on top.
My name is Goldie Zarnath, and I live on the property which would be west of parcel 2, which is the Spring Street parcel that Sartori bought, and my parcel is the north one, so I live on 221 Pleasant Street. The property on Spring Street connects to my backyard, and I want to address the implications of tearing down that house and future expansion. The house provides a buffer for some of the noise that occurs 24 hours a day. Most of the noise comes from what I assume is the refrigeration unit or the coolers running. The noise can be heard all day, but is more prevalent after 8 p.m. when the daytime car and truck noise subsides. The cooler noise can be heard with my windows closed at night. When my windows are open, the cooler noise is a lot louder. I also hear employees talking outside. And they do talk somewhat loudly. I'm just assuming it's possibly because the cooler noise is very loud towards the building. We do hear car alarms once in a while, and we can see the whole parking lot, and we do know the car alarm is from the Sartori parking lot because we do see the flashing. My house sits on top of the hill on Pleasant Street, and the factory is at the bottom of the hill. When I stand in my backyard, I can see the whole top of the Sartori building because of the elevation change. I estimate that it's possibly about a 15-foot drop from my backyard. If Sartori would excavate the current property where that house sits and level off to their current parking lot, my best guess it may be about 15 feet or more drop straight from my backyard. So that you can tell how much we do look down on the property. Currently, the lights on the west side of the Sartori building shine in my bedroom window. This mainly occurs in the late fall until spring, as there's a very nice large tree on the south side of that parcel, and when the leaves are there, it blocks the light somewhat, but then in the winter and early spring, the light does shine directly into my room. With future expansion of the parking lot or factory, the noise level will increase. Semi or truck noise will not only increase behind my house, it will increase from the road in front of my house, which several trucks take to get to the factory. This truck traffic is both loud and damaging to the roads. I have been told by some neighbors that Pleasant Street used to be marked for no truck traffic. Whenever this was lifted, they are not aware of any significant work done to the road to allow the truck traffic. Western Avenue from the intersection of Plymouth Street to Main Street has already been dug up twice this year, to my knowledge, due to water breaks. I'm not convinced that my street in front of me, Pleasant Street, or Main Street in front of Sartori were built for semi-traffic, and Western Avenue does seem to be having a lot of issues. If the rezoning gets approved, I would like Sartori to install a privacy fence, which may help with some of the noise absorption and provide safety from a possible drop-off if the land is excavated in my backyard. If lights are added to the outside of the building or parking lot, lights that shine down or towards the building should be used, not lights that shine out or face the neighboring houses. I would like the city to look into possible problems with the sewer and water pipes on the surrounding streets from the semi and truck traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, Goldie. The public hearing is the next things on the item, and if you do want to address the Sartori project, you can do that again there. Just an FYI for you. But you're okay to speak here too, but you can add more discussion later. Okay, thank you. And the next person that signed up is Steve Kirschner. Steve?
I'm going to say probably some of my comments for when we actually get to the next two agenda items regarding the Sartori property. I live on the property immediately to the south of Goldie. My backyard, directly connects to Goldie's property, and, I basically support all of what she is saying. In the summertime, yeah, you can hear the employees out there and they're cursing away. Based on the plan that was shared with me, they're gonna basically be, potentially moving the employees even closer to my house to be, talking away in the middle of the night. And sometimes they get a little obnoxious in their talk. Truck traffic is gonna, may not increase, but definitely without those buildings there, that noise is gonna travel a lot more. I greatly support the idea of a privacy fence along the property line, if for no other reason than, yes, limited noise reduction. I understand that, the 6-foot fence ain't gonna accomplish a heck of a lot, but, looking at a fence is gonna be a lot more aesthetically pleasing to us and any potential buyers of our homes in the future than looking at the ugly side, for lack of a better word, the backside of the Sartori plant. And again, I will potentially make more comments later on.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, I mentioned that this is where people address the council and we listen, and certainly we want to do that. The public hearing, which we'll now get into momentarily, is where you can have greater discussion. In this part, we're not allowed to discuss with you because we want to encourage people to come and talk to us. So thank you very much for that. Moving on, I declare a public hearing open for item 5A, an ordinance amending the City of Plymouth comprehensive planned use map by changing property from single-family residential to general industry regarding 104 West Main Street and 224 Spring Street. This is ordinance number 19, second presentation. This was recommended by the Plan Commission on September 6th. Maybe I'll start off with our administrator, Brian Yurgis, to maybe make an opening comment, and then I'll call on Brad if you want to make an opening comment, or staff, and then the public and or council is certainly welcome to add in. I would just ask everybody to be courteous and at the same time respect others that are talking at that time. With that, Brian?
Yeah, just a couple brief comments. Ordinance 19 is the amendment to the comprehensive plan, and just a note in the first paragraph, instead of saying single-family residential district R2 and light industrial district L1, that should be single-family residential and general industrial. That's just a typo. That's the zoning. The land use classifications are in there, so that's just a note that typo. This ordinance, obviously, as of January 1, 2010, our zoning decisions have to be consistent with our comprehensive plan. And so with the rezoning, they also made an application to amend our comp plan. The Plan Commission subsequently recommended passage of ordinance number 19, approving the comp plan change as outlined in the ordinance. And then ordinance number 20 is actually the rezoning, and that does change the zoning classification from single-family residential district R2 to light industrial district L1. And there's also is a rezoning map in your packet. And parcel 1 and parcel 2 are the two residential properties Sartori is purchasing. And those are the properties that are, the land use classifications and the zoning are changing on. Just a note, besides that, obviously they want to eventually tear those structures down, but they will have to come back to the Plan Commission for site plan approval on the parking lot and so forth. So that's the summary I have, and I guess I'd turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you. As a little housekeeping, 5A and 5B do kind of overlap, so if we have discussion that carries from one to the other and back, the chair will allow it for, keep the flow of conversation and keep things consistent in the discussion. We will vote on, or we will, not tonight, but when we have the final decision,
That is tonight. Second presentation.
can't read my own writing, second presentation. We will vote separately on 5A and 5B, is what I was trying to say. Sorry I confused everybody there. So with that, Brad, if you wanted to start it off, identify yourself for the record, please.
Sure. For the record, my name is Brad Nicholson. I'm the Vice President of Operations for Sartori Company here in Plymouth. And I'll address the first item, which is the proposal for the amendment of the comprehensive plan. As adopted in June of 2001, the plan states that the dominant agricultural area for the planning area within the comprehensive zone was in consideration of the dairy farms. Obviously, the Sartori dairy plant here at 12 West Main is consistent within that comprehensive plan to support that agricultural business within the area. And so we would propose the council to approve the comprehensive plan recommendation, and then I'll address the rezoning specifically on that item as well.
Okay, fine, thank you. Do we have anybody else that wants to speak further or ask questions from the audience or the council itself? If you have concerns as lighting or fencing or things like that, certainly the time is to make those comments known now, and you get to ask some pretty direct questions and maybe get some pretty direct answers. I don't know, but that's what public hearings are for. So this is interaction. This is where we have participation. So, ma'am, if you want to identify yourself
I don't
again.
have to repeat what I said at the first part, but I don't want to add anything, but if anyone wanted to ask me anything, I mean, that's fine with me.
Alderperson Jarvis.
Regarding the neighbors' concerns, Director Yurgis, would the appropriate place for a conditional approval be with the Plan Commission? Would that be the forum to discuss a conditional use permit for the site plan based on, would that be the group that would determine that? Or can we discuss that tonight, that we'd like to see a
I guess
fence?
two things. One, in terms of the zoning, we're doing a zoning change tonight, but a conditional use permit is not part of this process. But certainly,
The site plan review.
the site plan, the site plan review, they obviously have to come in and the plan commission would review that. Typically, the plan commission would put those restrictions on and discuss that. But obviously, I believe if the council wanted to, they could add additional restrictions on this tonight as well. And I guess I would turn it over to the city attorney, Feber, if she wanted to add to that. Or
I just had one follow-up. I don't know if the company and the neighbors have had a discussion. Is there any opposition to having some kind of privacy fence?
There isn't. In fact, I met with several of the neighbors. I was not able to meet with this neighbor. I did stop by your house at one point, and I did not have your phone number. I did have Steve's phone number and Cindy's phone number, and so those are the other two neighbors that directly abut this, as well as the two properties on Western Avenue. As I told Steve, we will certainly consider putting up a fence from an aesthetic standpoint to help do that. The Pleasant Street trucking, that's already been addressed. That was brought to our attention during the discussions, and we've met with our haulers and the other transportation company. We did locate two drivers that had used that Pleasant Street. We have notified them that that's not the route that we want them to take coming into the plant. So as we get the concerns from the neighbors, we certainly look to address that. We've been operating this facility since 1939, so we have a long history, and we want to be good corporate citizens within that scenario. So we'll certainly work with those neighbors. We'll look at redirecting that light. I'm not aware that that light was shining into that area. That's something that those types of things are easily correctable. We just need to know and have the opportunity to do that. I was saving the discussion for what the site would look like for the rezoning aspect of that to address the landscape. There is a significant elevation drop, and we do not intend to change that elevation drop. So again, we can address that with the rezoning. On the comprehensive plan, it's just really saying that it's consistent with what the comprehensive plan as drafted was for the recommendation that we're putting forward for this land use.
Thank you. And then just one, if I may.
Yes.
There was a quality question on the sewer and water. I don't know if John McKinnon, if you could maybe follow up and try to determine if these are, what the age or the quality of the pipes and the sewer is in that neighborhood.
We can follow up on that question, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, is there standing water or something that you're asking about the drainage in the street?
Yeah, there has been several issues with our sewer. Excuse me. And actually last December, a few weeks before Christmas, we had some issues. To make a very long story short, we contacted our plumber twice. We contacted the city. The city kept blaming us. They said it was a main break on our end. To make a very long 2 weeks short, to my knowledge, and I have my plumber and another plumber, I believe the city did somehow rent a camera from Green Bay, and they found out that the sewer lines are misaligned underneath my street. That's all I've heard from it since December. We've had a lot of issues with the sewer in the last 4 years. That's all I can say. So if it's documented with the city workers were out there several times last December. And finally, they told my plumber that they did see the pipes were misaligned.
So, and that's Pleasant Street, you're saying?
That is, yep.
Okay. John said he'll do some follow-up and check into that. Steve?
I just want to clarify something that Brad said. A couple things. First of all, the offer of the privacy fence, in my conversations with him was, 4 or 5 years from now, we have plans potentially maybe to put in a fence. So it was not them looking and saying, oh, we're gonna look at that right away. That was, down the line type response. I find it a little disingenuous on their part now that they are dealing with their truck drivers going down Pleasant Street. They've been doing that for years. The property that we currently live on was previously owned, and we bought it from my wife's grandparents. And I know they have, while we lived there with my wife's grandmother, have been in the house as she has called to the Satori headquarters, to the offices, and complained about the trucks, and was told, oh, those aren't our trucks going down. So it's a little disingenuous that they're now all of a sudden, saying, oh, we've corrected this issue. I find that almost like, oh, now we need you in order to get approval, so now we'll deal with this.
Chief Tauschek, I guess, hearing this, I would just ask you to do some checking in on that.
Check if it's actually a truck route or not.
Exactly, and get some better information on that, so,
Might have to look at signage.
yeah, okay.
One time there was a sign up that said no trucks. I don't know, it's one of those things you walk past it so many times, I can't tell you if that sign is still there right now or not.
Yeah, so that's why I said check into it, and you can get Steve's name and number from,
I think it's in the book, right?
yeah. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
You had mentioned the elevation drop off. Are you saying that you are going to basically chop it off and there's going to be a drop off? Or are you going to maintain the hill that is currently?
Sure. Let me address a couple of things if I can. I'll start with the grade. We're not looking to adjust the grade at all with what we're talking about here and with the site drawing that I had shared with you. There's no elevation grade change associated with that. Last Thursday, I believe it was, we had the variance hearing. Is that correct? And that was when it was brought to my attention through a similar forum like this that there was truck traffic associated with that on the Pleasant Street. When that was brought up, the following day we met with the haulers, and we've had meetings with the haulers. We have multiple different transportation areas to make sure that request was addressed, because it was brought up at that hearing at that time. And again, I was not aware of that situation specifically until that point myself. We may have, somebody else in the organization may have been. I personally was not. As it relates to the fence, I contacted Kurt Davis at Abacus today, following our conversation to look at that fence area. And so, yes, it was not considered previous to our discussion.
Alderman Hanson.
The site change is approved by the plan commission, correct? If
Site plan.
site plan, that goes to the plan commission, and they can say this takes place if it hasn't been taking place, and
Correct.
like that if the buildings are taken down. So that's another option if it isn't, completed, but that's a point when it's done, if and when the buildings are taken down, and, things have to be approved by the plan commission at that time.
Correct.
Make a
Can I just ask-
clarification,
yeah.
because we have met with the planning commission and have received the approval for the amendment to the comprehensive plan and the rezoning associated with those properties.
And can you just clarify, if they're just knocking the houses down, there needs to be a plan commission review?
You have to get Pete can explain, but there's a raised permit for knocking down the houses, but for instance.
But that wouldn't go to plan
all part-
commission,
No,
right?
it would not.
No.
There's just a permit for that, but for Like if it's just a parking lot, that parking lots are all approved at by the plan commission.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're
Or if
not
there's
planning.
other changes, beyond that, it becomes, the full site plan would also be approved by the plan commission.
But if they're not changing any of the, like, there's that gravel area right now, that if they just pave the gravel area, would that come to plan commission? I mean,
If I could, this might be a
Yeah.
time to show if I could approach
Yes,
the.
please do,
All right, thank you.
Mr.
Just to clarify. Go ahead and if you want to take a look at those. This is a small scale map of the West Main, Western Avenue site. The current facility sits here on the corner of Western Avenue and West Main. The shaded gray area is the current parking lot, and within that current parking lot, there is a 9-foot gravel area that runs the length of the lot. That is the area that Joel was just addressing that would be paved. Within that paved area, you can see lines associated with that, where there's a proposed 7 additional parking spots to the back of that lot.
and that's existing gravel, that's existing gravel right now.
If you look at the actual map here, and I know that this is hard to see, this is the actual plot. And on the actual plot, you'll see that 224 Spring Street was a flag lot. And by a flag lot, that means that there is an extension that ran to West Main Street from that multi-unit property. That was again, there's a single-family home on 104 West Main, and there was a 4-unit multi-family 224 Spring Street, just to, again, to clarify that, the single-family home item. So what we're looking to do is just pave this area that is currently gravel associated with that.
You're not gonna fit 7 parking spots into that small little gravel area. You've gotta be doing more than just that gravel.
No,
It
there's.
actually connects to the existing, there's a second parcel that Sartori owns in that lot, that's kind of a triangle in the back side of the lot, and that's where that connects into. As it relates to where the grass starts at Spring Street, again, you can kind of get a sense of, there's a retaining wall here that's being replaced for the property owner at 104 West Main Street. So again, we've met with that property owner. There's a retaining wall that's deteriorated between those. We've agreed at our expense to remove that current retaining wall, rebuild a new retaining wall, and separate that area between that property. Maintain as much of the green space, including all the trees that are in that area, not change the elevation, the slope of the land, and leave it in, I'll call it a more natural state at this time. That helps us then look at our planning for future site use of that facility. Should we need to be able to expand in this existing area, we would then be able to do that.
Right, the existing driveway is planning to be removed. We talked with Mr. Emick about closing that driveway entrance and putting curb there. So that's all planning to be done as well as part of this.
Does that help? Any questions on that?
Alderman Sizlacek.
The retaining wall that's there, is that between 104 and 112 West Main?
It does sit on the property line between 112 and 104. It's hard to say where it originally,
Sure.
it may have originally been part of 112, but in its current state and where it's at, it's right on the property line between the two.
So then, on those two properties where the actual houses are, is where this grass is,
on this drawing.
Yeah, there's 104, there's the house, a single-family home at 104 West Main, that we would look to raise, and there's a house at 224 Spring Street,
Right.
which is a multifamily fourplex that we'd look to raise.
Okay.
And then reseed the lots and maintain the trees and shrubbery that we can.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Question, Brad?
Go ahead.
There's a lot of retaining walls in that area of town, so I'm not sure if I'm even thinking of the right one.
Sure.
But on your property itself, isn't there one next to the house that you're gonna raise between your property and that house?
There is,
that getting
there's a
removed?
collapsing one that's on 104 West Main, and that's.
It's up against the garage.
And on this plan, if I can, that's where we're replacing with a natural retaining wall
Okay.
versus the brook retaining wall. Aesthetically, that was the kind of the preferred site plan, is to try to, again, make this more of a natural setting.
Do you have any comments from the planning commission?
Okay,
Go ahead, I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt you.
that's all right.
Steve, you have another question?
What precautions are gonna be taken? The house that shares that retaining wall with the property that you're going to be taking down has an in-ground pool. What precautions are gonna be taken that that ground is not gonna shift to the point where potentially that pool will crack and create problems for not only that property, but my property?
Sure.
If, however many thousand gallons of water end up
Yeah.
leaking out.
I'm not qualified to give you the specifics against that. We have hired A. Chappa Construction out of Sheboygan County here to do that work. They have met with the property owner, and Cindy, as you know her. And there is a process that they use to do that ensures that there isn't going to be a collapse of that and the precautions necessary to do that. And those plans were drafted and reviewed with her last week.
They're planning on rebuilding the whole wall.
Well, right, I understand rebuilding the wall, but obviously you're gonna have to tear down the wall, thus potentially moving, the earth is going to move.
Correct, they will do
It
that.
doesn't just sit there.
Right, but if we leave the wall the way it is,
Right,
it's
yeah.
gonna fall over, so.
Yep, so they put precautions in place as they're doing that, and they are aware, and went through some of the specifics on how the pool was constructed, when it was constructed, the materials used in those areas to make sure they did some background on what they were getting into.
Yeah, what kind of future reassurance if all plans don't go according to the best laid plans of men? And my property ends up getting flooded out and other issues develop?
Sure, I mean, if there's something that's, that occurs due to the construction associated, that would be addressed by the contractor to rectify that as well.
Right, but at whose expense?
Again, I can't address hypothetically what caused it, what it was, those areas. Again, Sartori has been in the community for, almost 75 years. We'll do what we need to do to make things right. It's always been, consistent with how we've practiced.
Alderperson Jarvis.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that Sartori is a longstanding and valuable member of the community, and it sounds like they're willing to put in the privacy fence and take care of some of the issues to, the two inherent different property uses that are near one another always poses
I haven't yet heard
problem.
that they're gonna put in a privacy fence. You
Well,
said that
that's
they're
what
going to, they haven't yet said those words.
I'm getting to that, and I'm also wondering if, it doesn't sound like you're going to come for a site plan review. You have no intention to do that in the next
Yeah,
several?
we don't plan on doing anything
Okay.
other than raising the property and
Okay.
restoring it into what I'll call landscape green space.
Okay, so maybe here tonight, could we add language that would say that within a year or 2 years, a privacy fence would be constructed? Is that a possibility
Yes,
to
we
add to
could.
this?
The council's approval could be contingent upon the construction of a privacy fence within X number of months or years, however the council wants to phrase that.
And we have no issue with the privacy fence. We just need to understand what the requirements are for that size, aesthetics, all of those things.
I guess I have a question of our city attorney. If we're modifying the comprehensive plan, how do we attach a condition of a property owner to the comprehensive plan amendment?
I think that that contingency would actually go on the rezoning piece, when you get to that.
Not this one.
Right.
Okay, I guess I'm trying to understand where we would go with something like that. Okay.
Right.
So if we did, that would be on B. Just point of clarification. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I was waiting until we got to the.
Right,
rezoning piece,
but
and the rest
I
is-
know we're overlapping here, and that's okay, because sometimes you just have to do it and keep the ball bouncing here, so, okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, ma'am?
Just for the record, I want to say, I know Sartori's been there 75 years. My house was built in 1911, and I think my house is one of the younger ones on the street. So our houses have been there longer, just for the record.
Thank you. Any other comments from the council? Chair will entertain a motion. I declare the public hearing closed. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the comprehensive plan use map changes as indicated.
I move to approve the ordinance amending the comprehensive plan.
Ordinance number 19.
Yes, ordinance number 19.
Thank you.
Second, Alder Hanson.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Just as a point of interest, this is where the council talks and not the audience. Public hearing portion is over. Thank you. Any other discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Now we'll declare another public hearing, this one on 5B, an ordinance amending section 13-1-22 zoning map of the zoning code of the city of Plymouth, Wisconsin by changing property from its present zoning classification of single-family residential district R2 to light industry district L1 regarding 104 West Main Street and 224 Spring Street. This is ordinance number 20, the second presentation, and this also was recommended by the Plan Commission on September 6th. And I'll call in Director Jurgis to start the conversation off, and then the chair will recognize as a public hearing those who want to discuss again. Thank you.
You have ordinance number 20 in front of you. Again, it changes it from single-family residential R2 to light industrial L1. At this point, if the council wanted to add conditions, they could do that. Obviously, just the term privacy fence, as Brad indicated, doesn't necessarily describe exactly what the condition is. So if the council wants to, maybe Pete has some thoughts on that, or another way, you could ask the Plan Commission to approve the privacy fence. You guys could come up with a standard, but Pete, do you have any thoughts on how tall that should be?
Is 6,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
the code is
residentially
6.
it's 6 foot, but we don't have, it would be on their property, so light industry is, from memory, I don't think has any height regulations.
Okay.
Residential is 6, Bill, is what you're saying? Could, as a matter of housekeeping, Brian or Attorney Feber, can we make that a site plan condition
Well, we
rather
just-
than zoning?
Well, what we just heard was that at this time, they're not coming in with a site plan because they're not proposing any other expansion at this time, so they're
Right.
not coming in.
But when they do, then it would go there. Would that not be a more proper place for it? Because you're not gonna grant the site plan without proper conditions attached?
And you're right, Mayor, in the event that they were planning to develop the parcel, they would be into the Plan Commission for site plan review, where the lighting issues and the fence issues would all be addressed. But it sounds like they're not really planning on developing the parcel at this time. They're gonna have some green space and they're gonna be doing some paving. So it seems unlikely that in the near future, at least on the current plan, that they're actually gonna be in front of the Plan Commission for any sort of site plan review. At least, and please correct me if I've misstated that.
No, that is correct.
Well, that's my point, that they're not doing anything to cause a condition in the site plan. The Plan Commission, the site plan, would then make any restrictions based on the proposal at that time. I mean, right now, we don't have any idea what they're proposing.
At this point, the only plan is to raise the two structures,
Exactly.
which they have to get a raised permit for.
Right.
Which is a
Which in
large
it-
impact to the neighbors.
Right.
Which I can understand the need for a fence. It seems reasonable.
We don't disagree with that.
I mean, if it was a plan commission, I think we'd be having this discussion.
Well, that's right,
It's
and,
just, this is
and,
a unique system
Right.
with the removing things.
Not building, yeah.
Would this 6 feet
Alderperson
be adequate?
Jarvis.
Thank you, Mayor, sorry. 6 feet be adequate? That's typical in a residential.
I'm gonna say no because of the slope of the land. My land, basically, backyard goes and about,
That's what I said.
I wanna say 5 feet, 4 or 5 feet from the property line, it begins to dip down. So if you put a 6-foot fence, at the property line, you're probably only gonna be ending up with maybe a 3-4 foot at max from the top side, if you follow what I mean.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't know if this is something that we can table.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, the council
Attorney Fever.
could approve the rezoning and make it conditioned on a privacy fence acceptable to the Plan Commission. Would be one option. That, of course, would then mean that the Plan Commission would have to be involved, but they may be a better body to determine height, distance, location, materials, those kinds of things.
Pete, you were gasping?
Well, I guess, because this is a unique situation, and if the property was acquired, they could simply come in and get raised permits, and we wouldn't even be discussing any of this. It's because they're acquiring it and they're rezoning it. Maybe I'm missing the point.
Well, it does make sense that they're simply,
Yeah, they're just, well, I guess what I'm saying is.
they're
that-
raising the property.
Right, if they just bought the houses, the 2 houses, they could come in, and I think it's $30 a piece, tear the houses down. And we wouldn't have any discussion, it would be just counter service. And then if they came back and said, we'd like to rezone property, you get what I'm saying?
Well, but what they're doing is they're putting 2 and 2 together because they don't want to make the
Right.
investment in the property if they can't get it rezoned, which makes sense from the standpoint of why would you want to spend thousands of dollars and not be able to do anything except mow the grass? So I can understand where they're coming from, but it is kind of a contradiction that all they have to do is get a raise permit and mission accomplished.
If I may
If I
comment.
can address-
If I may comment just for a minute, Sartori, as a corporate citizen, has agreed that they will put in a privacy fence. The Plan Commission is the body that typically reviews matters like this and approves development, things like this. So I think unless there's an objection to this, the motion could move forward as presented, approved, and let the plan commission review this and determine what is appropriate, like they would any other site plan or development project. So that would be my clear recommendation.
Anybody else? Alderperson Jarvis.
I will move to approve we have to close them, thank you.
Yeah. I didn't know
One
you were
thing
gonna do
before
that.
you close, again, I haven't actually heard the physical words from them of, we will put in a privacy fence. In my conversations with them last night, it was, no, we won't consider that. We're not considering that at this time.
Correct.
So again, now all of a sudden, they're getting real close to saying it, but they're not. And I would like that to be very clear on their part, that they are
Sure.
making a commitment to
Yeah,
put that in,
not a problem.
100% positive.
Sure. For the public record, as an officer of Sartori Company, we are agreeing to the recommendation of having a fence to border the properties that are Pleasant Street, Spring Street properties associated with that assessment based off of the recommendations of the council, specific to going to the planning commission for height, materials, and conditions of that fence.
Thank you. Any other comments? I declare a public hearing closed. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the rezoning ordinance number 20 as stated. Alderperson Jarvis.
I move to approve ordinance number 20 and to refer the decision on the fence to the plan commission.
Second, Alder Anderson.
We have a first and a second. I'll ask for clarification from Attorney Feber.
Just to clarify that the council's approval is conditioned on the plan commission
Yeah.
and
We'll exchange the word
Sartori coming in,
condition.
Going forward with the site plan approval.
Approving a privacy fence.
just the privacy fence.
No
The plan
site
commission approving the privacy fence.
Correct.
Correct.
Any other discussion on the motion? Clerk will call the roll.
Fowler.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Sedlogic.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. I want to thank everybody for participating in the public hearing and the discussion. That is exactly what public hearings are for, and we appreciate you coming forward. And please stay in touch with Brian Yurgis and Pete, our building inspector, and also Bill Emick, please. Thank you. Thank you to First Sartori taking the time to come in as well. Item number 6, ordinance. An ordinance detaching lands pursuant to Wisconsin statute 66.0223 from the town of Plymouth and annexing the same to the city of Plymouth regarding a road remnant on County Road C. This is ordinance number 22, the first presentation, recommended by the Plan Commission on October 4th. And Clerk Huberty, maybe you could give us a brief summary on that?
I certainly can. I included a memo from the county treasurer that was sent to the Rank Trust. Some of the history of this piece of land dates back to somewhere around 1935, when the land was owned by the Rank family, and I believe part of the property was sold, but there was a portion of the road that for some reason did not get included in the sale terms, from my understanding. And then later in 1992, there was an annexation to the city, and part of this road remnant was not included, and the county discovered this just recently, earlier this year, and contacted the Ranks as well as the city to get this problem cleared up, to clean up their mapping, and so that's why this annexation is being requested. The land was turned over. I do have a recorded trustee deed, it's called, where they deeded, conveys it without warranty to the city. The ranked trust conveyed it to the city without warranty. So the city is in ownership of that piece, we just need to annex it now.
Thank you. I guess I would call that some housekeeping duties. Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the annexation of the property as indicated.
I would move to.
And waive, I'm sorry, and waive the second
reading on
presentation.
ordinance
Yes.
22 of
Thank you.
2012.
Second, Alder Hanson.
We have a first and a second to approve the ordinance as stated and waive the second presentation. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Anderson.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 7, resolutions. Item A, an initial resolution regarding the Midwestern Disaster Area Revenue Bond Financing for Master Gallery Foods Incorporated project. This is resolution number 21. The information that we have at this time is part of the initial resolution, and Administrator Yerges, why don't you give us a brief summary on this? And the chair will allow questions and answers. We have Mark Grassi here from Masters tonight. If you have questions, we can certainly try to get those answered for you.
All of you should have received the City Council communication form dated October 2nd, 2012, as well as various documents with that. There's also a draft site plan, which I outlined for all of you that you should have received. Basically, Masters Gallery is looking to take advantage of the Midwestern Disaster Area Bond program. That program was the result, I believe, of the 2009 flooding. Sheboygan County was one of 30-some counties designated as a disaster zone, and there was an allocation of bonds to the state of Wisconsin. Originally, it went to counties, and then it was pulled together at a state level point because some of the funds were not used. But that program ends as of December 31st, 2012. So Masters Gallery would like to take advantage of that program at this time. The bond size will be $10 million to $12 million. This is purely conduit financing. This is similar to the 2007 industrial revenue bond that the city approved for Masters Gallery a few years ago. There's no legal obligation for the city of Plymouth related to this. If they default, the city is not on the hook. It's basically our name is placed on the bonds, but we have no liability for them. It is tax exempt financing. And all legal costs in terms of reviewing the various legal documents will be, on the city's part, will be reimbursed by Masters Gallery. And simply all we're looking at doing is approving the initial resolution tonight to set the motion and process. And if they choose to execute the bonds before the end of the year, they'll be coming back with a final resolution. And again, you do have a site plan in your packet that kind of describes the various phases that they are looking at beginning. And that's the quick summary. Questions for me on that? Otherwise, we do have Mark Grassi here tonight. We can ask him to make a few comments if he has anything.
Any questions of Brian or Mr. Grassi from Masters? Alderman Sedlacek.
What's the total square footage of the planned project?
The resolution says approximately 150,000 square feet, but they're haven't put together a final plan yet, and it wouldn't exceed 150, but it's in the low hundreds up to 150, I guess is the best way to describe that, unless Mark has another description.
Correct, as stated.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Hanson.
Yes.
Jarvis. Yes. Sedlacek.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Moving on, item 7B, an initial resolution authorizing $765,000 general obligation bonds for water system project. This is resolution number 22. Administrator Yurgis, you want to comment on that?
Sure, I'll just comment all three together, or all four together.
B, C, D, and E.
Yeah, resolutions
Thank
B
you.
through E are all related to the same debt issue. As you are aware, we are looking at refinancing 2003 combined revenue bonds, $4,190,000, and then we're adding the lead service line project on the water utility. You will notice that resolution number 22 does say for purpose of financing water system projects. Obviously, we're doing the lead service project, but anything left over would fund the 2014 DOT projects on the water side. And so all resolutions B through E are all necessary to be approved tonight. And then what would happen is within the next 2 weeks, there'll be a bond call with Moody's Bond Rating Service. The utilities staff and myself will sit in on that. And then on October 30th, Phil Costin will come back and provide us with a report of the bond sale results, and then we'll actually approve the sale that night.
Thank you.
Questions? This is the same one that we talked about. I think it was the second meeting in September, or August 28th,
Thank you. Alderman Hanson.
when Phil was
To
here.
approve resolution 22.
Second, Alder Anderson.
We have a first and a second to approve resolution number 22. I will do some housekeeping of my own. I failed to mention it. All resolutions are on the city website for review and in the clerk's office for public view. Thank you. We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Anderson.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Moving on to 7C, a initial resolution authorizing $4,190,000 general obligation refinancing bonds. This is resolution number 23. And as Brian said, all those topics are related, and we commented on those. Chair will entertain a motion to approve resolution 23 as stated.
So moved, Alder Anderson.
Second, Alder Jarvis.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Williams.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Next item, 7D, again related, a resolution directing publication of notice to electors regarding general obligation bonds. This is resolution number 24. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Alder Markham. Second, Sedlacek.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion on resolution number 24? Clerk will call the roll.
Markham.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. And item 7E, a resolution providing for the sale of $4,955,000 general obligation corporate purpose bonds, resolution number 25. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Sedlacek.
Second, Alder Jarvis.
We have a first and a second. Any discussions? This is obviously the addition of the prior two, making it a one bond sale. Clerk will call the roll.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Moving on, resolutions, item 7F, a resolution to impose a special charge for garbage collection, disposal, and recycling services. Resolution number 26, recommended by the Finance and Personnel Committee, October 1st. And Administrator Yurgis, you can maybe make a quick restatement, and then, Bill, if you want to add anything, you can add on, and then we'll entertain a motion and ask for discussion. Brian?
Yeah, resolution number 26 is the same resolution we talked about at the committee of the whole meeting. The $2 per month, $24 annually. It could be adjusted down a little bit to $1.50, $18. But certainly the $2 would give us a little breathing room and figure out what the bulk cost is going to be. Obviously, there's a lot of work detailed, or a lot of work required to actually get this on each unique property tax bill. And so, you know, pretty much the drop dead date is either tonight or October, I think 30th is the next council meeting.
Bill, you want to add anything?
I think it's just important the public realizes that this is just covering the increase in the cost, that the real cost for garbage is almost $100 per year, and that the $18 on their tax bill is a cost that it's going up for the new contract. So, other than that, no, or $24, I should correct myself.
Okay, thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to approve Resolution 26 as stated.
So moved, Alder Anderson.
Second, Alderman Markham.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion?
If I may, can we make this contingent on a contract agreement with Veolia?
I think that would be
Yes.
that'd make good sense.
Yes.
First and second agree to the modification of the motion. Thank you. Any other comments? Clerk will call the roll.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 8 is the consent agenda, which we've already approved. Thank you. Moving on, item 9, we have no items removed from the consent agenda.
We do need to officially approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve items,
Didn't we do that?
maybe
I apologize.
A, B, C, D, E,
Oh, we approved the list.
F, G,
Yeah.
H, and I.
My
Just
fault.
a note, the September management reports did not make the packet, so that is due.
I'm sorry,
Second,
Alderperson
Alder
Jarvis, which items did you mention?
All of them, items A through I.
Thank you. I apologize for interrupting. We have a first and a second to approve the consent agenda as printed with the modification, Brian, of the 1 minute that wasn't.
Yeah,
Are we removing that, or we just?
well,
We-
just to
'cause we
note
wanna
that
remove it.
that will be put in.
Follow.
Yeah,
that
we
will
want to
follow.
remove that. Okay, any discussion on the consent agenda approval items? Clerk will call the roll.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 9 is not needed. We have no items removed from the consent agenda. Item 10, Finance and Personnel Committee. 10A, discussion and approval for the City of Plymouth to enter into an agreement with Locate Staffing for temporary year-end accounting assistance at Plymouth Utilities, recommended by the Finance and, wasn't that the Utility Committee? Or is that the Finance Committee? Was it Finance Committee? Is that
It was
correct?
Finance.
Okay, I thought it was the utility, I'm sorry. Recommended by the Finance Committee on September 26th. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved, Alderman Markham. Second, Williams.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Alderperson Jarvis.
Yes, is this something that we've done in the past? Is this a reoccurring?
So this is a one-time 60-day thing. The utility finance manager hasn't made any definite plans, but, you know, within the next year to 2 years, he may be retiring, and we're looking at having Lisa work with Howard on the year-end closeout. And not only that, but the audit, and I think it makes sense from a standpoint having more than one person involved. And obviously, we don't have a succession plan for the utilities finance manager, and that's something that we'll be discussing with Lisa in the future, as well as deciding how we want to handle that. But we think that it would be important to have her work with Howard one-on-one through that process. And the temporary assistance, you know, a lot of it will be customer service, but we still need someone with a little bit of accounting background.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Clerk will call the roll.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Fowler.
No.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 10B, approved transfer of $14,651.23 from the 2012 budgeted contingency account as a loan to the Redevelopment Authority, RDA, for the 31 East Mill Street project. Administrator Yurgis, you want to give us a brief summary on that, please?
Yeah, you have the memo. The Finance Committee actually on Monday recommended the transfer of funds. Just to note that this is a loan at 0% to the Redevelopment Authority at this point. It's not a grant or budgeted funds directly. It is treated as a loan at this point. The RDA at this point would have to pay it back at some point in the future. Certainly future action by the council could change that, but obviously the RDA needs funds on hand so that they have funds to begin the process to acquire the property. There's various resolutions that the RDA has to vote on. It also has to come back to council for approval as well, but without funds, the RDA would not be able to purchase it.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the transfer of $14,651.23 as a 0% loan to the RDA for the 31 East Mill Street project.
So moved, Williams.
Second, Alder Jarvis.
We have a first and a second discussion. Alderman Hanson.
I think it should be noted that Attorney Blanky is doing his services on this at little or no cost, if I'm not correct about that.
I think that's fair to say.
He does have some costs in here, but
But minimal at the.
it should be also noted that actually, you know, a large portion of the purchase actually went to paying back taxes.
Mr. Chair.
Alderperson
Yeah.
Jarvis.
I just wanted to add as a member of the Redevelopment Authority, the recently established Redevelopment Authority, that this is a good step and a small step in trying to improve our downtown. And I think that typically in previous years, the budget for the Redevelopment Authority, which was previously the
Downtown revitalization.
Yeah, thank you. I forgot already. The Downtown Revitalization Committee would typically have a budget of about $10,000 a year. Last year it was $5,000. So in terms of the scope of the money that's being allocated, and it is also a loan at this point, that I think that this is an investment that's worthwhile for the city.
Thank you. Any other comments? Clerk, call the roll.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Sedlacek,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. I would like to make mention that the fire department, as part of the consent agenda approval, was given permission to have Main Street from Caroline Street to Smith Street closed on Friday, October 12th, 2012, from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. for fire prevention open house, and we appreciate you working with the public to do that, Chief. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.